Welcome back everyone, and we're in episode 2 now of the Ducati Multiprobla rebuild series. If you haven't seen episode 1, I introduced the bike, so go back a video so we're all on the same page. In this video, we're going to be looking over all the parts and fluids and all the things we need to do to attack this Ducati properly to ensure we have a good result on the other side. Let's run on over to the bench. So I think one of my favorite parts of any project I take on is just going through and figuring out all the OEM part numbers I need to replace, all the fluids I need to replace, and really getting down in the nitty-gritty and creating this big part store so I can attack the problem from start to finish without any gaps in between. So this basically represents that couple days worth of research and work to get things ordered and delivered. So over here in the left corner, we have brand new grips, because if you remember in the previous video, there's nasty glue that's coming up through the grips. Pretty inexpensive job, only 10 bucks there, but it'll make a huge difference. And then over here, we have new batteries for the key fob. So just yesterday, the key fob died on me, and it's very difficult to get the bike to start back up because it's just a transponder key. You don't actually stick a key inside of an ignition barrel or anything. So you want to always make sure you have a new battery in the key and have an extra one on the bike somewhere so you don't get stranded. Then we have a 4-pin diagnostic connector so we can attempt to reset the service interval indicators on this bike. Over here begins the fluids. So the forks are leaking pretty heavily. So I've got new fork seals. They're not here yet, but they are coming this week. And we've got a few bottles of fork oil, the Motul stuff. It's very hard to find OEM Ducati fluid or even the stuff they recommend like Shell Advanced Fork or anything like that. Basically impossible to find, at least in the United States. So you have to find something kind of equivalent, and fork oil weights are all over the board. There's no real good reference for knowing which weight was originally in the bike and which will work on the aftermarket. So I just chose something that's kind of in the middle of the road, the 7.5 weight made by Motul, so it should be good no matter what. Then we've got brand new brake fluid over here. The whole brake system is really, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with it. It feels like there's a lot of air in there, possibly water in there. So we've got some new DOT 5.1 stuff, probably the best street fluid you can get. We have a gallon of the Motul 300V 15W50 full synthetic oil. I'm just being a bit of a fanboy here and just getting the stuff Ducati puts in there because this stuff is basically the highest end oil you can get for a motorcycle, and they charge you for it as well. I actually got quite a discount on this through a local supplier. This with the filter only ended up being like 62 bucks, which may sound like a lot for an oil change, but for this oil and this kind of filter, it's quite a good deal indeed. I haven't even seen the original air filter on this, but judging by the dirtiness of the bike, I assume it's in pretty sorry shape. I don't even want to try and clean the original air filter. I'm just going to stick a K&N in there so it can be serviced in the future. A new filter from Ducati is over $100. This was about $70, so I can tell you that's a good deal right there. Now before we dig into these boxes, we're going to go over to the last fluid, which is the coolant. Now this is basically the Ducati specified coolant made by ENI. It is pink. It comes in these little blood transfusion bags. So these are 1 liter bags. I think the system takes 2.5 liters, so you do need to get 3 of them. These are about $14 a pop, and they're kind of hard to get. I went to the Ducati dealer locally, and they luckily had 4 bags on their shelf. Just know if you're going to try and change the fluid on a whim, probably not going to happen because you got to get this stuff, and it's probably not going to be available locally. Okay, now moving into the hard parts that I'm going to be putting onto the bike. This first long box right here are new timing belts. So I picked these up from a company called CA Cycleworks out of Conyers, Georgia, and they are by far the best deal on Ducati timing belts anywhere. You're looking at probably about $200 for a pair from Ducati. These are under $100 for a pair. Good quality. I've used them on my 996 in the past, never had any problems, so definitely a good deal there. And I just got some new lock nuts for the tensioner pulley. Box number 2 over here. Some other replacement items. So new spark plugs from Ducati. These are about $40 a piece. They're just NGK MRA 9A-Js. You can get these through NGK's website for half that price. So I think I got 2 of these shipped for about $34 all in. So definitely a lot better deal there. Over here, here's some new O-rings for the valve cover bolts. As I was going through the parts diagram, I saw that there were O-rings around the bolts, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to even risk it. I'm just going to replace them all while I'm in there. Got some new exhaust header gaskets. I'm not really sure. I might pull off the exhaust headers to get a thorough clean going on, but we'll see. These are the spark plug seals in the valve cover. Over here, some additional O-rings for when we're doing the oil change on the bike. There's a secondary oil filter. It's just like this plastic net cartridge that goes in the bottom side of the engine, and it's got a couple O-rings that seal it up, so these are just to make sure that gets done properly. These are more gaskets. So these are the valve cover gaskets. Now they say you can reuse these, but since I'm getting in there, these are pretty inexpensive. They're about $8 a piece, and there's only 2 of them. So just replace them while you're there. Last thing I have to show here is a shim kit, a Ducati 4-valve shim kit. This is from a company called EMS Ducati. I bought this shim kit when I had my Ducati 996, and it has the same size of shims. However, it's spec'd for the early 4 valves like the Ducati 996. But I'm hoping that if I do have to get in there and replace a shim, that this kit still has the size I need. They make a later model 4-valve shim kit. These things are not cheap. I mean, they're up $265, I believe, for this set. And, you know, there's not a ton of shims in here. There's about 1 or 2 of each size. And they're really high quality. You know, if I don't in fact have the size I need, then I'll just, you know, shell out the $10 or $12 it costs just to buy the shim. The specific shim I actually need. But hopeful that I can find the shim I need inside of that kit. So that's all the parts here. If we look at my parts list over here in the corner, you can see that came out to be about $570. So keep in mind that buying one of these bikes, that's not the end of the expenditures. If you're going to go in and start doing maintenance. If you're doing the maintenance yourself, then you can save a ton of money, obviously, but it's still going to cost you almost $600 to go through it all. And I'm not even changing the chain or the sprockets or anything because they look in good shape. So if you have to do that, or if you have to replace tires, throw hundreds more dollars on top of that. That's all the parts I ordered for it. So hopefully that's everything I need. I hate being stopped in the middle of a repair procedure because I ended up not having all the parts or all the fluids or all the sealants I need to complete the job in full. But that's not the end of this video. You think I'd let you go without fixing at least one thing on this bike? No siree. We're gonna replace the battery on this key fob so that we don't get locked out of the bike. Let's get to it. So this is a laughably easy procedure that really doesn't necessitate a video, but let's go ahead and do it anyway. So the first thing you need to do is pry the 2 key halves apart. Flathead screwdriver to do that. You just go in here, pop that off. Now I've already taken the old battery out, but there's just this little microchip you pull out and slot the new battery inside of there. The battery size is a CR2032, positive side up. And that's it. Reassemble it so that the orientation's like that. That's all there is to it. Now let's make sure it works. So it's within range. You just long hold this. Sweet. You don't want to be cut out riding without a new battery just in case the fob dies again. There are ways to start the bike up, but it's just easier to just replace the battery when you need to. So keep the extra battery. This one came with 2 in a little cubby hole that Ducati gives you right here on the side. Plop it in there, and now you're never going to be stranded. Simple as that. That's it for this video, but in the next one, we're going to take a stab at the hardest job, the valve adjustment. So stay tuned. We'll see you guys again next time.